My summer was spent researching soundtrack and Civil War film, which is a project that was graciously handed me by my advisor, Jack Ryan. This kind of snowballed out of a class, American Civil War on Film, that I took my sophomore year. The very first thing I did over the summer was familiarize myself with the literature of film music, which is a really recent academic area, and there hasn't been much work on soundtrack specifically. So it's been really exciting to be a part of such a new field.
I've spent the last 2 summers with Professor Carolyn Snively at her archaeological field site known as Golemo Gradište near the tiny town of Kunyuk in modern-day northern Republic of Macedonia. My major focus in receiving a Mellon grant and running off to Macedonia for 9 weeks was to get a better understanding of the individuals who occupied this settlement, this urban settlement in late antiquity. So between roughly the second half of the 5th century AD to the late 6th, early 7th century AD. And where I was supervising excavation was at the eastern end of the south aisle of the early Christian basilica.
What we focused on in our project was monumental architecture or monuments in the UK. This project started in 2008 during my study abroad experience at Bangor, North Wales. As a part of that study of Celtic archaeology and art, I got to see some of these sites in person. And as an art historian, as I'm sure some of you in the audience are, there's nothing that beats actually seeing art in person. I was so excited to get to see these things in the place that they were and the actual objects. Unfortunately, that is not the case in many of these sites. In some cases, they have been broken, set on fire with napalm, as we discovered, and even more disturbing, some of them aren't there at all and have been replaced with concrete replicas.
I was interested in what happens to the sacredness of these objects and the sacredness of the spaces that they're in if you remove the object from its space or you replace it with a replica of an object. Does that replica become sacred and part of that sacred space? Or does the stone that was removed still remain sacred if it's in a museum, or if it's moved to someone's farm, or if it's set on fire and destroyed? What happens to the sacredness at these spaces? How do people perceive of these spaces? Do modern people see them as sacred, even if they were sacred 4,000 years ago?